All right, we are learning about geometric sequences and series today. Geometric sequence, that would be when you can multiply by the same number to get the next number in the series. In this one, I could just look and say 1 times 5, or yeah, 1 times 5 is 5, then 5 times 5 is 25, and then times 5. So my rate is 5. If I cannot find my rate by just like figuring what you multiply by, you can also use this formula that just says take the second term and divide it by the first term. So for example 2, I'm going to take a negative 12 and divide it by 48 and reduce that. If that's too big of a number and I don't want to do it in my head, I could also try the third term divided by the second term. Both of them reduce to the same number, negative 1/4. So that would be my rate for example 2. Finding the nth term, we have a formula. A sub n is equal to a sub 1, which is the first term, times r to the n minus 1. So to find the sixth term, a sub 6, our first term is 3. We're going to multiply that by the rate. I haven't found my rate yet. So I'm going to take the second term and divide it by the first term, and I get negative 5. So that's going to be my rate, negative 5. And then I'm going to take that to the n minus 1, to the 6 minus 1. Order of operations, I would not multiply. I would do the exponent first, and then I would multiply by 3 afterwards. Your calculator does order of operations, and this is definitely a question I would type in my calculator. So go ahead and type that in. You would get negative 9,375. That would be the sixth term. Write the first 5 terms of the geometric sequence. Determine the common ratio and write the nth term of the sequence as a function of n. We look at this, and this is given to us in recursive formula. So that means that I'm going to find my a sub 1 plus 1, which is a sub 2, by doing 1/3 of my previous term, 81. So my a sub 2 is 27. My a sub 3 is going to be 1/3 of my previous term. It's 27. So 9. My a sub 4 is going to be 1/3 of my previous term. And my a sub 5, 1/3 of my previous term. So my terms are and it says we need to determine the common ratio and write the nth term of the sequence as a function of n. So to find the common ratio, we're going to take the second term and divide it by the first term. Or we could do the third term and divide it by the second term. Or we could do the fourth one and divide it by the third one. Or, and so on. And we can see that our ratio is the third, regardless of which, what you chose to do. And then we need to find the nth term. So it'll be a sub n. And we do our first term, multiply that by our rate, our common ratio, to the n minus 1. And then this is for any term, so it's the nth term, and that is the final part of the answer. Write the expression for the nth term of the geometric sequence. So this says we're going to find the 8th term. I think it's kind of worded a little poorly. We're not really doing the nth term, we're doing the 8th term for this particular one. So I'm going to do a sub 8 equals my first term multiplied by my rate to the n minus 1, so to the 8 minus 1. Oops. And I'm going to type that in my calculator. When you type it in correctly, I would suggest you try. Make sure that you get the exact same answer. So that is the 8th term of that sequence. All right, for this one, we need to find the first term. This says to find the nth term, and that is the first term. So I just need to find a sub 1. I know the second term, and I know the 5th term. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in both of the second term and the 5th term into the equation separately. So I'm going to do the first one. I'm going to do a sub 2. And I don't know what a sub 1 is, and I also don't know my rate. And then that will be to the 2 minus 1. I do, however, know that that answer for a sub 2 is 3. I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to do the same thing with a sub 5. So a sub 5 is equal to a sub 1 multiplied by the rate to the 5 minus 1. But I know what a sub 5 is. It is 3 over 64. So what I have is 2 equations with 2 variables. I have 2 equations with 2 variables. In chapter 7, when we had 2 equations with 2 variables, we could solve the system to find out what A and R were. To solve the system, we could use elimination or substitution. For this one, I'm going to use substitution. It's going to be a lot easier. And I am going to take the equation that I have 3 in, and I'm going to solve that one for R equals, because that one just has R to the first power. So I solve that for R, and then I get a sub 1 over 3. So that's what R equals. Since that is what R equals, I'm going to plug it in to this equation for R. So I'm going to have 3 over 64 equals a sub 1 multiplied by a sub 1 over 3. Oh. Okay, I made a big mistake. Just kidding. Because I didn't show my work. I really am dividing both sides by a sub 1, so this should be 3 over a sub 1. Same thing, putting it over here. All right, now I'm going to work with this equation on the right side of the screen. I've got 3 over 64 equals a sub 1 multiplied by, now I'm going to take 3 to the 4th, that's 81, over, I'm going to take a sub 1 to the 4th, which, I don't know what a sub 1 is, so I'm just going to write a sub 1 to the 4th. So now when I multiply these together, I get 81 a sub 1 over a sub 1 to the 4th. And so we can cancel out one of the a sub 1's. So now I have 3 over 64 equals 81 over a sub 1 to the third power. And this is a proportion where I can cross multiply to solve. I'm going to multiply and I'm going to get 3 a sub 1 to the third equals, and I'm going to multiply 64 times 81, and I get 5,184. Divide both sides by 3. A sub 1 to the third is 1728. The cube root both sides. And get a sub 1 is equal to 12. And I just use the cube root on my calculator. It's under the math button. There's a cube root under there. All right, after I do all this, what was I really trying to find the answer for? I was trying to find n equals 1. I was trying to find the first term, which is a sub 1, and I went ahead and I already found the answer. All right, on the back of the paper, we have a new formula. This is the sum of the geometric series. So find the sum of the first 6 terms of the geometric series. I'm going to do S sub, we're doing 6 terms, so 6 equals, my first term is 3, multiplied by 1 minus, now I don't know my rate yet. So to find my rate, I just need to take my second term over my first term, and my rate is 5. So move 5 to the, and then we are doing 6 terms. I'm going to divide that by 1 minus my rate, which is 5. All right, I'm going to just type that in my calculator at this point, and I should get 11,718. Next one, I have to find the rate. So I'm going to take my second term and divide by my first term. My rate is -1/2. And we're going to, the first 10 terms, so S sub 10 is equal to, my first term is 2, multiplied by 1 minus -1/2 to the 10th over 1 minus -1/2. Now you really can, if you put all your parentheses in correctly, you can type that into your calculator, and your calculator will do order of operations for you. Some of us don't have the most user-friendly calculators, so it might be easier to simplify some stuff first. If I take power first, 2 parentheses 1 minus, I'm going to get a positive 1 over 1,024, because 10 negatives will become a positive. And then on the bottom we've got 1 minus negative, so that'll be 1 plus 1/2, that's 1.5 or 3/2, however you want to write it, it's fine. And then at that point I'll probably type that in my calculator. And we should get 65 over 27. Just kidding, that's the wrong answer. I totally looked at the wrong answer on my sheet. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how to go back and erase mistakes I make. All right, the real answer is 341 over 256. All right, next section, find the sum of each geometric series. These are given to us in sigma notation. I'm going to start by finding my first term. Find my first term, I'm going to plug in 1, and I get 3. I'll find my second term, plug in 2, and I get 9. I'm going to use both of those terms to find my rate. 9 over 3 is 3. Then I'm going to use my sum formula. And I'm doing, let's see, 5 terms. So we're going to do our first term, multiplied by 1 minus our rate to the number of terms over 1 minus our rate ratio. Type that on my calculator, 363. Okay, question B, same routine. A sub 1, I'm going to plug in 1, I'm going to get 2/3 to the 1 minus 1. That's 2/3 and 0, that is 1. A sub 2, 2/3 to the 2 minus 1, so 2/3. And my common ratio, I'm going to put my second over my first, so I get 2/3 of my rate. And we're going to find our sum, and we're doing 4 terms. So we're going to do first term multiplied by 1 minus the ratio to the 4th power, that's how many terms, divided by 1 minus the ratio. Type in that in my calculator and I get 65/27. Alright, then the sum of an infinite geometric series. We're doing an infinite geometric series. We have a special formula. The sum is equal to a sub 1 divided by 1 minus r. So I need to find a sub 1 and I need to find the r. Let's see. Here we're starting with the 0 term. You don't have to start with the 0 term. You can start with the 0 term. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so it doesn't really matter if you start with the 0 term or the 1 term, but we are going to need the 0 term because technically that is the first term, even though it's not a sub 1. It is the first term. So I'm going to go ahead and find a sub 0. I'm going to plug in 0, and I'm going to get 1/10 to the 0, which is 1. Then I'm going to plug in a sub 1. I'm going to plug in 1. 1/10 to the first. That's 1/10. And I'm going to use that information to find my rate. My rate is equal to 1/10 divided by 1. So 1/10 is my common ratio. And then the formula is going to be, it says a sub 1, but it's not necessarily a sub 1, it is the first term. So in this case, it's really a sub 0. So I got 1 over 1 minus my ratio, 1/10. So I'm going to type that in my calculator, and we will get 10/9. Make sure you type that in, make sure you get the answer, so you know how to do it on your own. Alright, this one, I already have the first term, that's 9, and then I need my rate, so I'm going to take, for my common ratio, I'm going to take 6 divided by 9, so that's 2/3. Plug it into the formula. My first term is 9 over 1 minus my rate. And I'll use my calculator to find the answer of 27. All right, I would suggest that you go back and look at any parts of this video that went too fast. Come in with questions to XH and visit me if you got questions on next XH or study hall, and I will see you soon.